So let's take a quick look at some shocking animal mysteries that really perplexed scientists and researchers during first. Let's take a look at this first, the 2017 Great American Eclipse. So one of the most fascinating animal mysteries during this whole event in 2017, 7 years ago, was the observations of giraffes. So basically, they were observed kind of just going into a huddling for protection. Then all of a sudden, they broke out into a gallop. So that's one of the first things that scientists and researchers thought was kind of peculiar during the 2017 event. And then what was also noticed was that Galapagos tortoises were seen mating. And then the third thing that was actually observed was that scientists and researchers saw a gorilla charge a glass enclosure. And then some strange animal mysteries occurred with the birds. A lot of the zookeepers saw the birds kind of just chirping and doing behaviors in a synchronous manner. So a lot of chirping and synchronous behavior was observed with the birds during the 2017 Great American Eclipse. So definitely some fascinating animal behavior exhibited during the 2017 American eclipse. And then later in the video, we're going to compare the behaviors and patterns with the most recent eclipse on April 8th, 2024. But researchers and scientists published a study about a year or two after the 2017 event, and they said that 75% of zoo species were actually impacted by this event 7 years ago. So quite perplexing. So now let's take a look at what happened during the most recent event on April 8th, 2024, with the total solar eclipse. So one of the first things that scientists and researchers noticed was the unusual and rare daytime behavior from nocturnal animals such as owls and then also a ring-tailed cat. So that's one of the main things that perplexed scientists and researchers within this most recent eclipse event is the strange daytime behavior from the nocturnal animals. And then what's even more, this is actually kind of concerning because, you know, there's some similar patterns being observed with animals from the 2017 event and then this most recent event in 2024. So with the most recent event, zebras and giraffes were observed running around in a circle during the whole time of the eclipse. And this is actually similar to what happened in 2017 with the giraffes going into a huddle and then all of a sudden breaking out into a gallop. And then what really perplexed and shocked scientists and researchers is that they said that giraffes rarely run due to the fact that their bodies are extremely fragile. And the only times that they gallop or run is during a predatorial threat or something that has to be like an extreme threat to make them run. And scientists and researchers say there's only a few possibilities is predators and then some other type of has to be a really great threat to make these giraffes that are very fragile to run. So, and also another thing that was observed during the most recent eclipse event was the pacing back and forth of cheetahs and big cats. And then also the flamingos and penguins were observed going into a tight huddle, being completely silent. So definitely some strange and interesting correlations between the 2017 Great American Eclipse and this recent total solar eclipse on April 8th, 2024. So let's go ahead and review some basic information in regards to eclipse and then also look at some ancient cultural folklore too as well. So one of the first things about eclipse is that the first thing that happens is that there's a change in the environment. So what happens is that the temperatures drop. And then also the wind changes directions. And the wind can change a direction of up to 180 degrees during an eclipse. So this could be a possibility for why some of the animals were acting strangely, but it doesn't fully explain the situation. So let's take a look at what some of the ancient folklore has said about the symbolism of eclipse. So the Mayans said that the eclipse represented and symbolized a heavenly clash. So some type of good and evil struggle with the moon and the sun. So that's basically a representation of what the Mayans believed an eclipse represented. And that's a heavenly clash between good and evil, the sun and the moon. And then West African legends said that basically the symbolism of an eclipse means that basically it's a story of how human fighting and frictions and sins basically contaminated the sun and the moon. And then once the sun and moon was contaminated with human fighting, they began a battle. And then also Chinese folklore says one of the main reasons or symbolism for an eclipse is it's a story too as well, is that a celestial dragon devoured the sun. So three interesting perspectives from three different cultures as far as what they believe a eclipse symbolizes. So definitely some very interesting perspectives with the eclipse, but it seems like most ancient cultures believed that an eclipse was some type of battle between good and evil, the sun and the moon. So a lot of times when we look for questions, for issues in today's society, you have to take a look back in the past and see what these ancient cultures thought of eclipse. And if there's some type of commonality, it seems like all across the board in all regions of the world, there's a commonality as far as what an eclipse means. And that's a struggle between good and evil. Maybe they saw something that we didn't, or maybe there was some type of catastrophic event or some type of ancient alien, some type of intervention or something like that that happened and gave these ancient people the knowledge that what's going on here is a clash between good and evil. So what's going on in today's time in regards to spirituality and enlightenment is that we often have to look back to our ancestors and find that knowledge. Yes, eclipse can be explained pretty thoroughly from our current scientific methods and so forth through technology, but the eclipse is still a great mystery in today's society. And the eclipse can be a channel for discovering some of the greatest mysteries in the universe. So, very interesting discussion that we've had today in regards to the eclipse, comparing animal behavior from the 2017 American Great Eclipse with the one in 2024 most recently. And one of the most shocking things that I've taken from this research is that similar behavior with the giraffes, okay? And that shocked a lot of scientists to see the giraffes huddling and running around because this is something that's very unusual for giraffes to do due to the fact that they're very fragile. And researchers and scientists said the only way that a giraffe would run around is due to a threat. Usually it's a predator threat. So definitely a very interesting perspective with the whole eclipse. We kind of touched all corners. I can guarantee you won't find another video as thoroughly explained as this, as far as going into the whole, system of an eclipse, from the culture to how they impact animals and so forth, and how that correlates to today's time. So definitely a very interesting topic. Plenty of more topics to come, but this is a very interesting situation to have an eclipse during such turbulent times in today's society. We have wars, lots of conflicts, lots of corruption, lots of unknown diseases, climate change, and so forth. And it's very interesting because what's happening in today's times has a strange and eerily correlation to biblical events in the Bible, such as floods, such as diseases, such as war, greed, and so forth. So stay tuned for a lot more from the one and only Twilight Mysteries. Thank you.